The AMA National Championship Motocross Series is winding down. In the chase for the 500cc crown, defending champion Mike Kiedrowski is in trouble. After only one race of the series, Kiedrowski is chasing three other title contenders. In the 125 class, a different story. That big number one in the back of Jeff Emmig's jersey says it all. He is the defending champ. He is in the points lead and controls the tempo of the 125 chase for the crown. It all comes to a head here at Millville, Minnesota. We're at Spring Creek Motocross Park. The action is coming up next. Stay with us. Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Myers. Welcome to Millville, Minnesota, Spring Creek Motocross Park, where the weather today has really run the gamut. Early this morning, the proverbial cats and dogs. That's how it was raining. Now, the skies have cleared slightly. Now we're faced with a hot and humid condition that is going to be a factor as the races wear on this afternoon. Now, with me to help bring you all of the exciting action of the races is Prime Network's expert motocross analyst, Jim Holly. Jim, two things come to mind. This racetrack is a elevation changes, a lot of them. There are twisted turns, and it's covered with about 4 inches of mud. Second thing, we're looking at 500cc motorcycles. They're going to be a handful under these conditions.
Well, I know the thing I wouldn't want to do is go out there and wrestle a 500 around today. The mud has a big factor to do with the 500s. It adds about 30 pounds of weight, and the 500 is already 20 pounds heavier than a 250, so that's going to be one of the factors. But also, on the other hand, the track here at Spring Creek's really great. It's got a lot of uphills and downhills where the 500s can use all of the power and everything, and I think the fans are in for some exciting racing today.
Yeah, it's going to be a handful, though, as they turn the 500 throttle, because they're just going to be sliding all over.
Well, you definitely want to have a good throttle control. You don't want to grab too much throttle on a 500 because it does have a tendency to hit to the power real hard, and with all this muddy conditions, I don't know, it's going to be like wrestling a big Brahma bull, I think, today.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This is the second round of the 500cc National Championship Series. The opener was at Washougal, Washington a week ago. Let's go back and check the action. We'll start with the opening moto in the 500cc class. Now, coming up, a horrendous crash in the first corner. It's a right-hander. Watch what happens. Mike Kiedrowski is at the bottom of that huge pile. Kiedrowski already suffering from a bone-jarring crash that took place in the final round of the 250cc National Championship Series, and that certainly could not be of help. Roy Turner, the team manager for Kawasaki, runs out to see if Mike is okay, and he says, "Hey, I'm okay, Roy. Get back and do your job. I'll do mine." Meanwhile, up front, doing everyone's job was Mike LaRocco, rider number 5, Jeff Stanton, rider number 2, holding on to the number 2 position, and back of the pack, providing all of the excitement, was Kiedrowski. Picked himself up off the ground, and he really began to reel in the riders. He would finish 7th overall in that moto. Meanwhile, Jason McCormick, local favorite from Vancouver, Washington, was holding down the number 3 position, and much to the crowd's delight, he stayed there for a long time. However, he was eventually reeled in by Steve Lampson, rider number 21. McCormick would have to settle for 4th overall in that moto. It was Mike LaRocco all the way winning the opening moto of the season in the 500cc class. Second moto, no repeat of that crash, but there would be a repeat of LaRocco's win. This guy looks red hot in the 500cc Championship Series. Early going, though, it was Steve Lampson and Mike Kiedrowski. Recovered nicely from that first moto, didn't he? They were battling for the lead. However, Mike LaRocco passed them both to take over the number 1 position. Then came rider number 2, Jeff Stanton, and he would finish in that spot. There's the checkered flag for Mike LaRocco, a pair of moto wins. He wins overall honors for the day, followed by Jeff Stanton with a pair of second-place finishes. Steve Lampson, good ride, a pair of third-place finishes. Look at this, Mike Kiedrowski recovered to finish 7th in the first moto, 4th in the second moto. Outstanding effort. He was riding hurt. So after one of only 4 events in this 500cc Championship Series, LaRocco on top, followed by Stanton, Lampson, and Kiedrowski. A very short series. If Kiedrowski wants to repeat as champion, he'll have to get on the stick out here today and for the remaining 2 races after Millville. The riders are in the gate. The action is about to get underway. We'll have it when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to AMA National Championship Motocross. We're at Spring Creek Motocross Park in Millville, Minnesota for round 2 of the 500cc National Championship Series. Riders are about to get underway. Let's check out the race analysis. 1992, Jeff Stanton was the winner. 2 motos, each moto 30 minutes long plus 2 laps, 93 degrees, 50-50 chance of rain. The track still has a lot of mud on it from the early morning showers. They've done, though, a remarkable job in cleaning the track off. And Jim, I don't think that if the rain holds off, I don't think that that weather is going to be a factor. Gate is down, and here they come, headed for that right-hand U-turn. It is soft, it is treacherous, and the race is underway.
Mike LaRocco out in front there. It's good to see LaRocco getting some good starts. He's usually coming through the back of the pack. He likes his 500 class.
Well, LaRocco holding down the #1 position. His teammate and defending champ in this class, Mike Kidrowski, running second. Third place is Lamson, then comes Stanton. I want to point this section of the racetrack out as probably the most treacherous stretch of sand whoop-de-doos in the United States.
I'm going to have to say in all of the world, Larry, that's where all the passing's done today. And you can see as the riders are coming through, the water is in between the whoops. That, like you said, that is the most treacherous spot on the racetrack.
Well, it's never the same 2 times around. It seems like a rider will pick out a line that works for him. Next time around, he tries it again, and bang, it's gone. Up front, Mike LaRocco continues his charge. He's opened up about a 25 bike length lead over his teammate. The elevation changes here make for a spectacular part of the race circuit. I want to point out some shadows on the racetrack because of the trees. We're in natural terrain, and riding in and out of the shadows has got to be a problem for riders.
Well, it's a big problem because of the fact that they don't know whether to go with clear lenses or tinted lenses because you're in and out of the shade so much. It's really hard to judge, and especially going up and down hills. If you're ready to start up a hill, you might see a shadow, and there might be a hole there. Boom, you hit the hole, it's going to knock off a little bit of your speed and your momentum going up that hill. It is a very treacherous, and not only that, the trees. If you get out of shape and you hit a tree, you're in real trouble.
I imagine that has got to be some kind of a thrill, hitting a hole that you didn't know was there at about 50 miles an hour. Make you sit right up and take notice. Tell you who's taking notice right now is Mike LaRocco as he continues to dominate the early going of this race. Kidrowski is still sore. We pointed that out at the outset. He hurt himself a couple of races ago, and it's going to be a problem for him to maintain that position, I feel. He's riding hurt.
I'll second that, especially on these 500s. As the moto progresses, this track's getting real rough, it's muddy, it's got to be hurting his back.
And we'll see if it becomes a factor that moves him toward the rear of the pack, or maybe it'll loosen up and move him closer to the front. And as a matter of fact, right now, he seems to be catching Mike LaRocco. They're a little bit closer together. The battle behind them still raging. Lamson still running third. Jeff Stanton fourth. Back in that treacherous wash section. And look at this. Stanton around the outside. We've got a bunch of riders now up front. Stanton finds a brand new line. It looks a little smoother out there. And Stanton has made the pass. So Stanton finding a way through the whoops that none of the other 3 riders are using, and it vaulted him up to the #3 position. Meanwhile, David Gaylord, that'll show you just how deep the whoops are. Look at that, the motorcycle almost buried. He's picked himself up off the ground, and I think probably he's thankful that he's able to get that big 500cc machine fired up and back into it. But that shows you just how deep and how treacherous that section of sand whoops can be. You pointed out is probably the roughest section in the world, and I would find it hard to argue with you. LaRocco, Kidrowski, and here's Stanton in third, and look at the mud covering the Honda motorcycle. I've got to think that that is going to increase the handling problems of the 500cc machines.
Well, normally the 500 is a hard machine to hang on to anyhow. When you add all this mud, it just brings the weight up that much more to like 30 or 40 pounds. That in turn has a tendency to wear the riders out. It definitely is a bigger handful to ride with all this mud on there.
Well, we've referenced the mud a time or two here, and you're not seeing a lot of it on a racetrack. We'll give a lot of credit to the crew that was up early this morning after the early morning showers with bulldozers. Johnny Martin, the man that owns the facility here, was manning one of the dozers, and boy, they were working awfully hard to clean the mud off the track. They did a miraculous job. They've turned the place from a quagmire into almost an ideal race surface. So the 500cc Moto #1 grinds on. We'll be back with more in just a moment. LaRocco, Kidrowski, Stanton, and Lamson.
My name is Josh West. I live in Auburn, California. I'd like to know who the riders voted for in the last presidential election.
I actually was voting for Perot. I mean, I wasn't too much on, looking up on all this stuff, but basically from what I heard, I mean, and seen on TV, I think he'd have been the best president, but obviously a lot of other people didn't think that, though, and picked Clinton.
I voted for Ross Perot. I thought that he made his life from nothing to something, and he worked hard at doing it, and I thought he had a lot of good ideas. He was pretty blunt about it, said what he wanted to say, and I thought that those things is what could change stuff. And I'm kind of sorry now that Clinton is president, because now my taxes went up and everybody else's has, and you know, a lot of people are disappointed about that, but who knows, maybe in a few years it'll be better.
See, I've got a theme song for our campaign.
And there is the motocross choice himself, Ross Perot. What he's saying there, Jim, is more motocross, lower ticket prices, more championships.
As long as he doesn't raise mine or your taxes, he's okay with me.
Well, I'll tell you, with the amount of money that you make, a tax increase for you would really be a problem, I'm sure. Back to the race action. It's still Mike LaRocco holding down the #1 spot. And look, Mike Kiedrowski is starting to tire. He's looking awfully sloppy coming through that rough whoop section. Stanton was behind him. He's watching, and that's going to be a factor before this one is over.
Well, that's going to give Jeff Stanton the edge. He sees that that's happening to Mike Kiedrowski. He knows that he's tiring. His back might be bothering him. Any number of things can be going wrong right now. So Jeff Stanton, I think he's going to pounce on it. He knows that Mike's tiring.
Yeah, well, it's not only tiring. I think that he is awfully sore. We've talked about his injury. We've talked about what a chore it is to handle a 500cc machine on a rough track. Earlier, we asked Mike Kiedrowski, how do you ride a 500cc machine? Mike Kiedrowski had some interesting answers. Here's what he had to say.
I kind of picture myself when I ride a 500 as driving like an Indy car or something like that. You have to use the power wisely, put the power to the ground, don't let the tires spin too much, and, you know, use it like that instead of just hammering the throttle and hoping to go in that direction. You have to aim it and, you know, get on the gas smooth, and then it'll work for you. You know, that's the way you have to ride a 500. You can't just grab a handful and hope for the best.
Whatever needs to be squeezed, Mike Kiedrowski apparently knows the answer to that, as he squeezed it just right in 1992 and won this 500cc National Championship Series. Meanwhile, Steve Lamson holding down the #4 position. Kind of a lonesome ride, Jim. He's holding fourth with no hope of catching third if all things remain equal. And the guy in fifth place, Mike Healy, well, there's Mike Healy. Healy pulling off the track.
I think he's got a flat tire. He's pointing back at the rear wheel. He's looking down at it now. Yeah, he does have a flat tire. That's unfortunate for Healy. He was running really well.
Indeed, he was running well. This is the best ride that Healy has turned in since coming back from Europe. That's where he's raced the past couple of seasons. But coming back to the United States, says he's going to round out his career here in the States. Unfortunately, he's rounding out the effort here today with a flat. See that bike spinning sideways? Is that what you were talking about a second ago?
That's where you get your flat tires from. The bike just comes around and hits it. And the 500's got so much awesome power, it has a tendency to wheel spin the wheel. And actually, we can hear right there is where you're gonna, right exactly at that point there is where the wheels has a tendency to spin, and sometimes it'll even spin the tube where it just rips right off the valve stem.
You can see so much more in slow motion. Look at the ride that Lamson is turning in, the motorcycle all over the racetrack. Up front, LaRocco continues to lead. Here comes Mike Kiedrowski, still holding second and still looking awfully tired. Jeff Stanton running in the #3 position. Stanton has both of the front runners in sight, and I wonder, is he biding his time, or can he not get around them?
I think he's just feeling things out. As you notice, there's a lot of lap riders in the way, and that's going to play a big factor. A lot of lap riders throwing mud in your face. He's kind of laying back and letting things sort out. The
elevation changes here at Spring Creek, and Mike Kiedrowski coming to a stop. His arm was raised. Cameraman just panned with a guy going by him. He thought that was Kiedrowski, but look, Kiedrowski taking off his goggles. He's hollering at his mechanic, who's located about 200 yards away, moving that throttle hand like maybe he's got a throttle problem, Jim.
Yeah, it looks to me that way. His throttle might have broke just coming up the hill there.
Boy, what a bad break for the defending champ. Meanwhile, Jeff Stanton, a good break for him. He's moved into the #2 position. So Stanton is able to make hay while the proverbial sun shines, and that's what's happened here at Spring Creek. The sun has come out, shining all over Stanton as he takes advantage of a tough spot for Mike Kiedrowski to be in. Kiedrowski turning the motorcycle around. I'm not sure what his intention might be at this point in time. Maybe trying to run it down that hill and bump start it. Meanwhile, from out of the mechanics signal area, there's Shane Nally, the mechanic for Mike Kiedrowski. He's making like a mountain goat to get at him, but once he gets there, they can't touch the motorcycle.
Yeah, I don't know what he's running for. Mike should be pushing the bike back down to the mechanics area, because that's where they can work on it. They're not allowed to touch the motorcycle unless they're in the mechanics area.
Did you see the look on Mike Kiedrowski's face? I think he knows that with that mechanical problem, there goes the 500cc title for 1993. He has no opportunity to repeat. Jeff Stanton, meanwhile, is charging toward the front portion of this lead pack. He's trying to catch Mike LaRocco, and now Kidrowski has fallen to the ground, but the bike is running. Well, that's a mystery to me. First the bike didn't run, then he's picking himself up off the ground, and the bike is running again. Is that how you start one of those things? You throw it down on the ground? Well, in any event, he's back in the race, but he's well off the pace now. He'll not be a factor in this moto. We'll be back with the remaining action in the 500 class after this. Welcome back to the closing stages of the opening moto in the 500cc National Championship class. It's AMA National Championship Motocross coming to you from Millville, Minnesota. I'm Larry Myers, with me, Jim Holly. We've been watching as Mike LaRocco had taken the lead in this one and has pretty much made a shambles of the field. That was Mike Fisher, rider number 33. Fisher is a part-time rider this year, Jim, and he's doing an admirable job out here today.
He's doing a great job. He's running fourth right now. The mishap with Mike Kudowski's throttle moved Fisher right up into the top 4 spot there. He used to be a factory KTM rider. He put in some good rides. He likes the 500. He does a lot of testing for Kawasaki on the 500, so he's got a lot of time on this class.
He's kind of a journeyman pro. He did some riding for Kawasaki prior to the KTM. Had the factory rides there, then of course, as you said, at KTM, and now still doing some testing and out on the circuit enjoying himself. That was the 2-lap board. Mike LaRocco gets it, and he's just that far away from victory in moto number 1. 2 laps to go. You know, a good number of the riders on the racetrack are perceived to be either a stuck-up rider or someone that's overly friendly with the crowd or not friendly enough. All kinds of categories that they're lumped into. Had an opportunity to visit with Mike LaRocco a little bit earlier today, and that was the question that we asked Mike. Mike, in this world of professional racing and fans that you have to satisfy, how do you think that those fans look at you?
To say, you know, my image is, I guess, like I said earlier, a hard charger. I do try, and every time I go out, I try and give 100%. But as far as myself to the fans, you know, if out front, you know, I'd like to give them, you know, a wave or talk to, or, you know, show the crowd that, you know, I know they're out there and I know they're cheering for me. But as the way things have gone lately, I haven't had a chance to do that as much as I'd like.
Well, the huge lead that Mike LaRocco has opened up in this first moto of the 500cc class, he'll have ample time to wave or do anything that he might desire to do. As a matter of fact, I think he could stop and share a sandwich with the crowd assembled here at Spring Creek Motocross Park. LaRocco has just eaten him alive, and there was that wave. I want to tell you, Mike says that he likes to do that, but it's rather uncharacteristic of him. Very seldom you see LaRocco waving at a crowd. Checkered flag comes out. LaRocco wins moto number 1. It is the 3rd consecutive moto win of this 500cc National Championship season. Stanton finishes in the number 2 position for the 3rd time. It's Steve Lamson finishing 3rd for the 3rd consecutive time. There's a break in the action right there. Mike Fisher turning in a 4th place finish. 5th was Kidrowski. Then came Cliff Palmer, Keith Johnson, Rich Taylor, and Jim Holly is with our winner, Mike LaRocco. Jim?
Mike, great ride out there. You know, earlier in the year in the 250s, you had a hard time starting the bike. This year, I think you got 3 hole shots. Now, tell us your secret. What'd you do different?
I guess I ran out of bad starts, so I had to get a few good ones in there. No, actually, I've been working on it. You know, that's the thing that's been keeping me from winning, so I practiced more on that than I did on anything else, and it seemed to help out.
How's the track out there, the ruts and everything? Is that a problem out there? Does it seem to be drying out?
Track, actually, you know, when I was out there by myself, it was great, a little rough, kind of fun, but when you get around those slower riders or lappers or even trying to pass, it's kind of one line and real ruddy, but, you know, it's considering what we went through in practice, it's real good.
Sure makes things a lot easier when you get those hole shots, huh?
Well, I guess.
Good luck in the next moto.
All right, thanks a lot.
Little tongue action there, a la Michael Jordan. We'll be back with 125cc action. That's Damon Bradshaw talking the situation over with the Yamaha crew. Stay with us. Millville, Minnesota is where we're at. We're going to look at 125cc highlights as that class is about to kick off here at Millville from 1 week ago in Washougal, Washington. All you need to know is Jeff Emmett, the defending national champ, took the hole shot in moto number 1, turned around and looked the rest of the field, said, "Where are you? I'm gone. Bye-bye, guys." Running in the number 2 position, he was a long way back. Ezra Lusk from Team Suzuki. Third, another Suzuki rider, number 19. That's Brian Swink. And giving chase in fourth was Jeremy McGrath of Team Honda. It was all Jeff Emig, though. He was never challenged in that one. Second moto, more of the same. Jeff Emig was good as gold in Washougal, Washington. That guy just couldn't be beat. A little bit different story, though, in the runner-up classes. Ezra Lusk still finished second, but Jeremy McGrath worked up to the number 3 position, and dropping down a notch was Brian Swink, as Doug Henry became a factor in moto number 1. He finished, in moto number 2, rather, as he finished in the number 4 position. So with that checkered flag and a pair of moto wins, Jeff Emig extended his points lead. He took the overall win. Ezra Lusk finishing second overall, then McGrath and Doug Henry. The title chase is between Emig and Henry. And as you can see, Henry did not fare well at all in Washougal. After 9 of 12 events, 366 for Emig, 361 for Doug Henry. So he, in effect, lost the points lead at Washougal. Question is, can Doug Henry regain that points lead? As we looked at that scoreboard, the numbers in parentheses indicated the number of wins that those riders have had so far this season. Emig with 4 overalls to Doug Henry's 2, but Doug Henry has been the more consistent of the 2 riders. I'll tell you where he's not been as consistent as Jeff Emig is off the line. Here's another typical Jeff Emig start. He grabs the hole shot. He has been really, really strong in that area all season.
Well, Team Yamaha and Jeff know what it takes to win a championship. They won it last year, and it takes good starts. You can't come from the back and win championships.
Jeremy McGrath was trailing Emig, and here's Larry Ward. Unfortunately, Ward's day ended in the first corner. Well, actually, the second corner. His motorcycle just came to a grinding halt. He's out for the day. That's going to drop him out of contention for the top 5. Jeremy McGrath, almost coming unglued from the Honda, is still giving chase, but he was passed by Doug Henry when he made that bobble. So now we have up front the 2 title contenders. Emig in the lead, Doug Henry giving chase, Jeremy McGrath in 3rd place, and rider number 11, hometown hero. He's a Minnesota lad, Donnie Schmidt, 2 times a world champion. He's in the battle here, and Schmidt just thrilling the crowd. He's in the midst of a world championship fight in the 250cc class, and he took time out to ride his home track here in Minnesota. You think the crowd is just not hammering on each other and screaming and waving shirts. They want Donnie Schmidt to do well. We had an opportunity to visit with Schmidt in the pits earlier today and said, Donnie, why in the midst of a world championship chase are you riding in the AMA series?
This year I kind of had a bad year, and I felt that I maybe have lost some of my speed since I went to Europe, and I think it's going to help me a little bit to improve my speed, and especially riding with the 125 guys, the young guys, really aggressive. I'm riding 3 nationals, so hopefully I can, you know, learn a little bit. Never too old to learn, and maybe get some good finishes also.
Donnie Schmidt, trying to learn, has already captured a 125cc world title as well as a 250 world title. Says he's never too old to learn. Donnie Schmidt not faring all that well in moto number 1, finished with an 8th overall, but I think that he accomplished his goals in being out here in Minnesota and racing today with what he calls some of the fastest riders in the world. Jeff Emig continuing to hold off Doug Henry. Now, these 2 just battled wheel to wheel throughout moto number 1, but look at this, Jim Holly. Emig came to an end in his quest for a win with a crash just prior to the finish line.
It was just a little slide out there, and it's unfortunate that he did it. He was able to remount and just finish up second for the race. He wants to gain those valuable points.
Yeah, I said just prior to the finish line, that was the location. That crash actually happened about midway point of the moto. Would you believe he came back and crashed a second time? Still, as you pointed out, finishing second overall in the moto, turned in an outstanding ride to get that far up in the pack. And here is Emig now, working his way through traffic and around the racetrack, trying to make up all of that valuable ground that he lost in the 2 crashes. So Emig would hold on to finish second, while Jeremy McGrath would hold down the number 3 position. McGrath really never in contention after the first couple of laps. Seemed content to stay back there in that number 3 slot, take whatever points he could get for the day. The win goes to Doug Henry. He picks up 3 points over Jeff Emig in moto number 1. Moto number 2 still to come. We'll be back with that. Welcome back to Millville, Minnesota. You're watching National Championship Motocross on Cycle World. Exclusive coverage on Prime Network. We're in the midst of a look back, if you will, of the 125cc National Championship class. Earlier, we took a look at what happened in the 125 first moto. This is action from the second moto, taped earlier today. Same kind of start, same results. Jeff Emig jumps out front. This time, I think Emig hopes to keep it upright and on two wheels and go for the win, whereas in moto number one, when he had the lead, he crashed. Jim?
Well, I know it's in the back of his mind, and I know in between the races, he went back to the semi. Yamaha's got a video room set up in the big rig, and he studied the tapes and found out why he crashed, and I know he's not going to make the mistake twice.
Well, at least he hopes he's not going to make the same mistake twice. Doug Henry is really charging, extremely aggressive in this moto. It would look like he is not content to follow. Look to the right of Doug Henry, rider number 8. Damon Bradshaw is a factor in this one. There was Ezra Lusk. So in the early going of the second moto, a battle royal with 4 riders involved. Donnie Schmidt, as the moto progressed, was out of it. Schmidt, you'll see in just a couple of moments, is going to call it a day. He had his problems throughout the moto. He came here to learn a little bit, to try to improve his techniques to go faster, but spent a little bit of time on the ground and in the pits. Caved the exhaust pipe in.
That's unfortunate for him. He's here to learn today, and he's not going to get any learning experience today, Larry.
Only how to walk back to the pits. Damon Bradshaw struggling. He finished 11th in the opening moto. He'll finish 6th in moto number 2. It's not been a Damon Bradshaw year, at least the kind of year that Bradshaw was expecting. Now, earlier, Jim Holly had an opportunity to visit with Damon Bradshaw in the pits. He talked to Bradshaw about 1994. What did he do to correct the problems?
Well, this year I'm going to be able to do some of the European races where last year I missed out on that. And I think that's a good starting point, for the Supercross season. So, I'm going to take probably a couple of weeks off, and then it's going to be time to do the races in Europe. And once I start the races in Europe, it's going to mainly start my season. It's going to be time starting to get ready for the Supercross season. Then in December we'll start our testing. So, it's not going to really be much of an off season. I had 6 months off last year, so, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time off.
So you think that played a big factor? I mean, the knee surgery, taking 6 months off last year, missing a lot of the European circuit. Boom, you go right into the 93 season. You don't figure you were prepared enough for it?
I don't think that I was not prepared enough. I think we could have been more prepared. I think, I'm not going to blame, anything on my knee surgery or spending that time off. It was just a matter of, I got to do a lot of things I probably would never get to do until I was retired. But, a lot of different things go on when you're off like that, and then once you come back, it's, hey, you got to go back to work again. And, that was kind of hard for me to make that transition again, but, it's something I had to set my goal towards, so we'll be ready for next year.
We'll wish Damon Bradshaw luck. He did not have it here today, nor did Ezra Lusk in moto number 2. Watch this. Bam, take a bite of sand. That's that rough section, Jim, we've talked about several times today. I assume at this point that Ezra Lusk had seen all of that sand pit that he cared to. We're going to take another look at it, though. Jim, a replay is coming up. Let's talk about that crash.
Well, when you're riding the sand, you want to keep your momentum up. And here he just shuts the throttle off just a little bit because he got out of shape. That was the wrong thing to do. You want to keep the throttle on. You want to try and straighten the bike out. At least he had the presence of mind to keep the throttle running and the clutch in so he doesn't have to kickstart the bike. It's really hard to teach someone when the bike starts swapping like that, just grab a handful. They want to have a tendency to shut the thing off.
I can't understand that. When you're in trouble, grab a handful of throttle. That's what you're saying. And that certainly goes against the grain of a natural inclination to shut that thing up. Now here's another battle on the racetrack. This one is Ezra Lusk. Picked himself up out of the sand to catch Damon Bradshaw. Now watch, Ezra will get through the whoops with no problem this time. Watch what happens when the pass is made. Watch Bradshaw, he goes to the inside and he lets, it looks to me like he just let Ezra Lusk rail around the outside. He really made no effort to stop him. And our leader, Jeff Emig, meanwhile running away from the field. And look at this, where is Doug Henry? Well, he stopped to pick an apple or two off that tree. Henry says that was refreshing. I'm going to get back in the race. He's down just a little bit further now from Emig, and that will prove to be his undoing in moto number 2. He'll never be able to catch the defending national champ in the amount of time remaining.
No, it's unfortunate. When you crash like that just before the whoops, the momentum factor enters into it. He was dead stopped. He started in the whoops. He just went one after another. He wasn't able to clear any of them. You're not going to catch up.
Very good point. So he lost another 10 or 12 seconds in that whole process. Emig takes the checkered flag. That's going to give him the overall win for the day. Doug Henry is going to finish in the number 2 position. You'll notice they have the same finishing spots, the same number of points. Well, the overall win, though, will go to Emig because he finished the best among the 2 riders in the second moto. That's the way the rules read. So after 10 of 12 events, it's Emig, Henry, McGrath, and Lusk. Let's go to our winner.
Jeff Emig, congratulations on your overall win today. What did you do different between the first moto and the second moto, because you just flat smoked them?
Bottom line, Jim, is I didn't fall down. In first moto there, I fell down twice in the same spot, the exact same way. You know, I was a little upset with myself, so, you know, I told myself, okay, you know, get out front, you know, let Doug catch some roost, and, you know, and let's go for it. You know, like, let's see who can go the fastest.
Still to come, the final moto in the 500cc class. Mike Kidrowski checking the motorcycle out. But they put a new throttle on between motos. We'll be back with that action. Welcome back to Millville, Minnesota. AMA National Championship Motocross on Cycle World. Exclusive coverage on Prime Network. The second 500cc National Championship Moto is about to get underway. The riders have loaded the gate. The gate has dropped, and they're thundering down that long, soft, straightaway start into the first corner. A right-hander. They'll bend it around. It's like a hairpin turn. It's very soft. They're very treacherous, and the soft sand took its toll.
Yeah, a few riders just went in there a little hot and heavy, those 500s, when they come into the first turn. It's really hard to stop those things. They're not like a 125 or a 250. They're hard to stop.
And, of course, under the wheels of the 500, we're looking at some shifting sand. That does not help matters. Up front, a battle between 2 Honda teammates. Jeff Stanton, rider number 2. Steve Lamson, rider number 21, holding down the number 3 position. And Mike LaRocco crashes. LaRocco was the winner of the opening moto. He is the series points leader, and LaRocco went down. He was pitched off the motorcycle in what looked to be a rather hard crash. He's been passed by a whole host of riders, and he has really got his work cut out for him now, Jim.
Well, I think the main thing that the mechanics want to do when he comes around is to settle Mike down. He is leading the championship here. The worst thing he can do is get up and start riding like a wild man on this rough track and crash again. And, you know, that's going to even put him farther back. He needs to get his head together and concentrate and work up through the traffic.
Meanwhile, Kawasaki honors need to be upheld by Mike Kidrowski. Now, the 2 Kawasaki riders, teammates, Kidrowski and LaRocco, have been battling each other all year long, and it would look like, at the beginning of the season, I should say, it did look like that Mike Kidrowski was going to sweep this 500 series. But Kidrowski had his problems with a crash, so he's not been healthy, he's not been well, and it's been difficult for him to ride and maintain the pace. LaRocco, on the other hand, look at that rear fender bobbling back and forth, has been the surprise of the 500 Championship Series. So they're chasing right now the 2 Honda riders, Lamson, Stanton up front, Kidrowski running third, with Mike LaRocco working through the pack. And as we looked at that fender that was bouncing around, will that affect his riding, Jim?
I don't think the fender will affect it, but I definitely, if he bent the handlebars or bent a shifter or the brake, that's got to affect him. He's got to adapt to the bent handlebars or whatever may be wrong with the bike and still be able to work up through the traffic. I noticed the bike's smoking a little bit here, so hopefully the bike's not going to fail on him.
Well, that could have been that splash of water. They just jumped into a puddle, and I think that was steam. See, there's no smoke there now. I'm just concerned about the rest of the motorcycle holding together the way LaRocco is riding it. He is really attacking this course.
Well, it looks like he's attacking it really hard, but, you know, he's got to attack it safely. As they go through the whoops, you notice a bunch of riders changing lines through there, and if it's unfortunate, if one of the guys cut in front of LaRocco there and knocks him down, he's down again, so he's got to be careful of this traffic that he's working his way through.
Safety is not LaRocco style, never has been. Look at that, feet off the pegs, they're way up in the air over his head, and he's working his way through lap riders, not lap riders, riders in front of him. Normally it would be lap riders, but he's actually now just trying to gain position. He's all over the racetrack. What an incredible charge he's putting on.
There's that bike smoking, Larry. That's got to worry me there. I don't think that's steam. I don't see anywhere of any water there. I think his bike's smoking a little bit.
Now, there go 2 spectators are stealing a motorcycle. I wonder if they get away with this. Meanwhile, we'll be back with more action from the 500cc championship right after this. Welcome back. We're in Millville, Minnesota. You're watching Cycle World. This is the second moto in the 500cc National Championship class. AMA Championship Motocross. Jeff Stanton is the leader. Rider number 2, Earlier in the moto, Mike LaRocco, who won moto number 1, fell, and he is back in the pack working his way forward. It's an opportunity for Stanton to pick up some valuable points and go off from this championship that has eluded him throughout his career. Now, Stanton is touted to be one of the most physically fit riders in the world today. Earlier, we had a chance to talk with Stanton as to how he maintains that condition.
It's pretty simple. You basically have to wake up every morning and get out there and do it and make no excuses for yourself or for anything as far as that goes. Pretty much have the body to do it. You just need to go out there and put in the miles running or bicycling or lifting weights, whatever it takes. It's basically what I do. I do all kinds of different things. Running, bicycling, weight training. In the summer I like to swim, do all the water vehicle stuff. Enjoy other sports, basketball, some golf. But I just keep active.
Jeff Stanton has certainly been active here in moto number 2 as he is holding down the number 1 position. That's Steve Lamson, rider number 21. Lamson trailing his teammate. Lamson signed a contract with Honda this year, and I think what they said was, Steve, we're going to give you a couple of years to prove yourself, and next year really should be his year. But he has turned in some outstanding performances this year, Jim.
Not only in the outdoor races, in the Supercross too, he's had some good performances, but he's also lacked a little bit of aggressiveness, I feel. He's up there in the front, things don't go his way, he kind of slacks off a little bit. I'd like to see him charge the whole race.
Mike LaRocco is picking himself up again. That's the second time that he's crashed today. He's going to have to go back to work, pass a lot of riders that he already passed after crashing the first time. Now, despite those crashes, I still think that Mike LaRocco is one of the top motocrossers in the world. Of course, that's my opinion. You have yours. But to maybe clarify the point, we talked to a professional rider. We asked Steve Lamson to rate the top 3 motocrossers. He races against them. He works out with them, so he should know.
First, I'd have to say Jeff Stanton. I mean, he's my teammate, and I know how much he works, and how hard he works and how hard he trains. And he's got a lot of talent there, too. And I'd have to say, secondly, probably Jeremy McGrath, because he, basically he's a rookie this year, and he came in the 250 Supercross, basically. Nobody thought he was going to, be struggling to be in the top 5, and he came out, winning a lot of races, so he's been right there. And of course, Mike Kwiatkowski seems like he's a really hard worker. I mean, he's won some championships so far that, in the past, like 500, 125 championships, and he's, he's a hard worker and a hard trainer, it looks like.
Well, those are Steve's opinions, and coincidentally, he picked his teammates, Jeff Stanton and Jeremy McGrath, first and second. That's how to get along at the training meal in the morning. They'll be proud of you, Steve. And Andy Stacy, rider number 77, his tour of duty in moto number 2 is over.
Whoops claimed another one. They're about ready to claim Mike Kwiatkowski here if he doesn't stay on top of that motorcycle. It looks to me the motorcycle is in control of Mike Kwiatkowski instead of Mike Kwiatkowski in control of the machine.
Again, a lot of pain that he's riding under, and it certainly is affecting his performance. Mike Kwiatkowski, in my opinion, turning in a very, very gutty day. Meanwhile, Mike LaRocco continues to charge through the pack. He's trying to regain the position that he lost with 2 crashes today. Jeff Stanton holding down the number 1 position. Here is LaRocco. There's the difference. LaRocco has a firm control on the motorcycle. He's holding on tight, and he's just wailing through that whoop section.
I don't know if you want to hold on tight, because if you hold on tight, you're going to have a tendency to get arm pump. He wants to ride relaxed on that bike.
Can you ride and retain control by holding on loose? That would scare me. Mike LaRocco now moving up to challenge Mike Healy, trying to pick off one more rider, and on that uphill section, he does just that. LaRocco continues to charge on this Millville racetrack. It's a track, I think, that pretty much defines his talents and his ability to hold on tight. Earlier, we talked to LaRocco about this Millville facility. Let's hear what he had to say.
Millville is it's an East Coast track. It's sandy and it's got clay, a loamy mixture. I like that track a lot. It gets really rough. It's a real fun track. Yeah, Millville for me has been real good. I've won the last 3 years in a row now. On the 125, it's been a 125 track for me. This year it'll be in the 500 Nationals. So, I like Millville. I think the track suits my riding style real good. it helps. I mean, if you've been somewhere that you've won at, you know you can do it. So it helps you confidence, and it helps, you know, it makes you look forward to a track if you've done good there, and especially more than once.
And there is Mike LaRocco ahead of Mike Kiedrowski. He's taken over the number 3 spot, dropping Kiedrowski back to 4th. One of those comments that LaRocco made were made prior to the race action today. I wonder if he still feels kindly toward this racetrack after crashing a couple of times. Kiedrowski is struggling. We've mentioned this a time or two. No two ways about it. It's not the same Mike Kiedrowski that we have watched all season long. He is riding hurt. He injured his back in a rather hard crash just about 3 weeks ago in the final race of the 250cc season, and aggravated it a week ago at Washougal. The second moto in this 500cc championship class is in the final stages. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this. Welcome back on Cycle World today. You're watching an Mike LaRocco, rider number 5, almost was nailed by a lap rider. Did you see that, Jim? And now LaRocco just took a swipe at him when he passed him. LaRocco was trying to make the pass just prior to the finish line. That rider cut across the front of him. LaRocco had already been down twice. Then LaRocco took a poke at him. Let's watch again.
So here you have the blue flag, and the rider didn't pay attention to the blue flag. That means get out of the way. You're being lapped by a faster rider. Mike tries to get around him. He's a little frustrated. He's been on the ground a couple times. He almost put him on the ground there. He just tapped him on the head and said, "Get out of the way."
I've never seen a rider reach out and take a poke at another. Well, it wasn't a poke. It was just a little slap on the back of the helmet. Up at the front of the pack, the other end of the spectrum, is Jeff Stanton. He's on the last lap. He has put together a fine moto here in moto number 2. Now, Stanton finished second in moto number 1. LaRocco was the winner. So if Stanton is able to keep it up on 2 wheels, if he's able to avoid the on-track conflicts that, look at this. Now he's weaving in and out of riders.
Well, you just saw there, a rider looked back and saw that it was Jeff and got out of the way. That's what the other rider needed to do.
Well, if he's able to avoid those problems that Mike LaRocco has had today, a couple of crashes, a lap rider trying to take him out in that boxing match on that last lap, he'll keep it upright and he'll go on to claim the overall win for the day. And he's looking behind him like, I really don't believe the lead that I've got out here. Where is everyone? The answer to that, of course, is they're not in the same league with Jeff Stanton in this, the second moto. Now, LaRocco has ridden just as fast, maybe faster, as Stanton comes up to the checkered flag, but unfortunately, LaRocco stopped to take a couple of, well, shall we call them dirt naps? In any event, he was on the ground. Stanton does the winning. Lamson finishes second. LaRocco, with an excellent ride in this second moto, was third. Then came Mike Kiedrowski, a very gritty performance. We've noted that a time or two, deserves mentioning again. Overall for the day, Stanton will take the win. Mike LaRocco will finish second, then Lamson and Kiedrowski. Jim Holly is down at the finish line. He's with Jeff Stanton.
Jeff Stanton, congratulations on the overall win, and most important, the first outdoor victory of this year.
Yes, too bad it has to be now. The end of the year is over, but I want this 500 championship, so, you know, if I had to put in a little extra effort, that's what it takes.
Well, you look like you're riding a lot better on the 500. Is the back still bothering you? You feel 100%?
No, I'm 100%. I just had to take some time to get healed up and, you know, get ready to race the 500s.
You're close to within a 4-point. LaRocco has 4-point lead on you now with 3 races to go. You got the momentum, you feel?
I feel I've got momentum. You know, it's always good to get that first win so you have that confidence going into the next one. So I just got to keep riding hard and going at it.
Congratulations and good luck in the next National.
Thank you.
Hard riding on the part of Jeff Stanton, bad luck on the part of Mike LaRocco, and Stanton has moved 2 points closer to Mike LaRocco in the chase for the championship. Came in 6 down, he'll leave 4 down. Lamson and Kiedrowski round out the top 4. Here are the manufacturers' standings, 867 for Honda. These are the combined points earned by their riders throughout the season. Let's go to Mike LaRocco, who's with Jim Holly.
Mike LaRocco, great ride from the comeback there. Tell us a little bit what happened on that first lap.
I think I was running third on the start. I just passed my teammate Kiedrowski, and I got at the end of the whoops in the back, and my front end stuck, and it threw me over the bars pretty hard. The bike cartwheeled out, and you know, I myself was back in mid-pack. I got going again, and later on the first lap, somebody had fallen on a blind corner with no flagman, and I hit him real hard, and I went over the bars and kind of knocked the wind out of me. So I got back up, and you know, I just gave it what I had.
Well, it was a great come from behind to third place and everything. You still have a 4-point lead on the championship there. Does that play a big factor? I mean, I know you don't have as many points as you did coming into the event, but I think you still have the momentum.
Oh yeah, I definitely, you know, without, I fell 3 times, and I had the speed, that moto, I could have won it if I was out front. So, you know, I still feel that way. I wanted to sweep the series, but I guess there goes that.
The track here drying out a little bit today?
Yeah, it was perfect that time. It was perfect traction everywhere.
Great. Good luck in the next event.
Thanks a lot.
Mike LaRocco loses the sweep, but he retains the points lead in the 500cc National Championship class. Jeff Stanton, however, did edge